Hello, we've got a few people. Thank you very much for coming, attending this webinar. I know it's 7 o'clock in the evening and we've got other things to do. I'll keep it as short as possible. This is being recorded, so if attendees want the copy of this webinar, I can share it with you, but we cannot share it elsewhere. So it's going to be through a link, unlisted YouTube link. If that's all right with everyone, I'm going to kickstart this webinar. A presenter view. Brilliant. Demystifying GDPR. Why do I want to do this? Is because there's lots of confusion about what GDPR is, and especially small business owners and charities at large who doesn't have that much of a manpower, but they do have to comply, and they are a little bit on a stage where, oh, should we do it, should we not, or how are we going to manage this? Large organizations, they've got enough money, they can go and do whatever they want. So that's the conundrum everyone has got. So I thought, I've got to do something about this. I've got to make it as simple as possible so that people adopt GDPR, because it is needed. Without if you don't comply to GDPR, it's going to be it's lots of fine. Yes, so that's why I put this together. Before we go, a little bit of housekeeping. If you could please switch off your mobile phone, and I'm the only person who's running this, and I don't have any helper as such for this webinar. So it's going to be me going backwards and forwards, but hopefully we will keep this going. And if you've got any questions, please put it in Q&A box underneath, and I will tackle those questions at the later, maybe in the half an hour's time. Hope that's okay, and we'll move on to the next one. Who am I? I'm an IT strategist, actually. I've got about 22 years of experience in IT and management consultancy. I'm a certified ethical hacker. That's another reason why I do get really into cybersecurity and other things. So I do all the tests for organizations and for local government, actually, doing their CCTV policy or data protection, or how long they should be keeping all these archives and all of that. So yeah, that's policy, process, and procedures, I think. So those are the things I do. I do work on artificial intelligence and blockchain technology. Again, it's because of the cybersecurity issue around it, and that's me. I also help business owners to outthink, outsmart, and outmarket using technology to create their own castle as a business and leave the legacy eventually. And I'm a technology coach, mentor, and consultant. That's enough about me. I'm not going to talk about, if you want, you can go on LinkedIn and you can find out about me in the testimonials out there. Thank you very much. So the next one is, why GDPR? Why did it come about? GDPR came about because there have been quite a few data breaches lately. Since 2015, it seems to increase in proportion, increase exponentially. The loss and the amount of data we lose seems to be quite a lot. And the fine is not as appropriate as the data being lost. So this GDPR is supposed to close that gap. If you cannot deal with your data, with the data as a data controller or processor, how are you going to manage your company? because the data you own in an organization or in a charity or in your business is not, that's not your data. You're not the data owner of that data. Someone else is. You are only processing that data. You're controlling that data to get something out of it for your business. You're researching for the business research purpose. So when you're handling someone else's data, how are you going to handle that data? What are the rules which need to be there? And there's the data protection. These are the infamous breaches. Debenhams exports 26K Debenhams flowers customers through their supplier's e-commerce site. One of my clients said to me, "Oh, I've got suppliers. They'll sort it out. It's not my problem." No, it's not. The fine was on Debenhams, not on supplier whoever Debenhams was hiring. So it's more of your responsibility as an organization. And three is famous for this, and most of the mobile companies are they're supposed to be knowing what they're doing, but unfortunately, yes, the mobile companies 200K customer data were compromised. It was not stolen, but compromised. The most of the data is because the staff was not dealing with it properly, so the data was compromised. NHS, we all know NHS. It's because I know I work for central government and also work for local government, mostly lately, and financial organizations. I'll come to financial organizations shortly, but the national government, government, and also the local government, they do spend quite a lot of money, and all the policies are set up right and everything is right. Unfortunately, the technology they use are at least about 5 years older. I don't know why, but that's what it is. They spend quite a lot of money. They spend equally expensive hardware and software and all of that, but they are about at least 5 years old. For some strange reason, I don't know why. Please don't ask me why, because I am not in the procurement department. So that's what I think. I don't know, by the time they start installing and they're implementing all of that, it takes ages. By that time, because 26 million patient records are being lost or compromised, actually, because of the ransomware they had on their system. They didn't update their virus or something on the firewall, so it got compromised. And 2,700 practices, the data is from that. And ICO, the Information Commission Office, they've been dealing with it for about 7-8 months. This incident, NHS incident, came about a lot quicker than it's been reported on in the news, quite a lot quicker than other data breaches. Some of the data breaches, Yahoo didn't even report some of their data breaches, unfortunately, because they'll incur fine. Halifax and Bank of Scotland. I've been doing the IT governance and IT security for quite a while now. I always say I won't have a bank account with the banks I work with because I know the systems, how secure the systems were. So this is the problem. They do spend. I'm not saying they're not spending. They do have policies. They do have controls. They do get audited quite often. Unfortunately, the secure systems are not up to date most of the time. And Wonga.com, they lost quite a bit of customer records, almost 250,000 customer records. Sensitive data about these people have been lost. Tesco Bank is quite big for that, and HSBC and PayPal. PayPal is quite often in the news because of the data breaches, which the nature of the business which they do. General data protection regulation, no escape. It is going to set to go into effect on 25th of May 2018. whether we like it or not. It is going to happen if you as a business or an organization or a charity, if you're not compliant and you do store data from your clients, then God help you. That would be my answer. But it's not too late though. You can set policies. You can do this from now and 25th of May if you have not already started. The most thing you must do is how you get the data. We'll see what are the steps you can take straight away and see how you can change that. It will take a little bit of time, amount of data you have. That's why the large organizations have jumped on it quite early, because the amount of data they have, the Amazon and Google and Facebook and other companies, they do have large amount of data. So they did jump on this wagon about almost 2-3 years earlier than it's supposed to come into play, and they've been doing things what they were supposed to be doing. And according to EU, according to ICO, as an Information Commission Office, what is considered to be the personal data? Most of the businesses, small businesses, most of the charity organizations, I don't know much of, they won't be selecting or getting sensitive data that much, apart from NHS and a few other organizations. But charity and also small business, even medium businesses, they wouldn't be getting sensitive data, but they would be collecting personal data. What is personal data? Let's get that clear so that we know what we are trying to get into. Name, address, ID, if they've got social security number or their NHS number, NI number, all of that. IP address, definitely. Location, that is in the address. Social profiles, if they give any, and any numbers and IDs, as I've got any other numbers, like or economic and cultural background, where they come from, what the race is, and all of that come under personal data. So knowing personal data is okay, but what about the sensitive data? By mistake, are we collecting sensitive data? If you are collecting sensitive data, your controls must be a lot more stronger than it should be. So what are the sexual life? What they, and health, if you're collecting health details, political beliefs, religious and psychological, philosophical belief, trade union membership, bank details. These are sensitive data. So if you're not collecting all of these data, your controls can be a little bit lower than what it is supposed to be. So that's fine. Before we go into the facts of what GDPR is, let's talk about what are the myths which are out there. And these myths, I've heard about it from my clients day in, day out, and they talk about it all the time. Oh, we'll just set it up and forget. Oh, policies, and we've got that policies, we'll do that. That's fine. No, it's not. GDPR is downfall for all organizations. Definitely not. It is. I'll talk about how it can help an organization when you have a GDPR compliant and other things. And you cannot collect and store personal data. No, it's not. You can collect and store personal data as long as you've got a process and policies to go along with, to maintain the privacy of that personal data. So it's not about you can't do it, but you do it responsibly. And it's only for the businesses in European Union. Definitely not. If any businesses who are going to be doing businesses with the European Union, they need to comply. That as a client, as a public, as an individual, you and I have got rights to ask these companies who are dealing with European customers like us to provide us the data we want, and they should be providing us the data which they hold on us. Point, full stop. No argument there. So their policies should be in such a way that they can provide us the data as soon as it's possible. If they've got any data breaches, they have to do with it. Only data breaches need reporting. No, not yes. It is only data breaches need, needs to be reported as soon as possible, but you need to provide the information as soon as possible as well to prove that that data breach was beyond your control. So it's not about just reporting, oh yeah, you had a data breach, we don't know what to do with it, but that's not. So you need to, the fine is quite high, 20 million euros or 4% of your turnover. This can literally kill a business. A small businesses, a large business may not be that much, but if they had 2 or 3 data breaches like Yahoo had, that's the reason they went bust, actually, to be frank with. So that's not possible. That's never going to be there. They won't even last for four data breaches as they did in the past because they didn't have GDPR. It's punishing organizations, definitely not. It's not a Y2K problem, year 2000 problem. No, it's not. I was there at Y2K problem, and people were saying, oh, it's all doomed. All the computers are going to go bust, and we can't add data or access data. Flights are going to be on air, and escalators will stop, lifts will stop, all of that. No, it's not that. It didn't happen, so it's not going to be that again. It's not about fines. It's definitely not about fine. It's about taking responsibility for the data you're owning or you're processing on behalf of the owner. And don't worry, because it is supplier's problem. This is quite prevalent. Why is it quite prevalent? Why is it not? Why is supplier's problem? It's your data. You're asking your suppliers to deal with that data. Why would it be a supplier's data? It's your data. And I'm a local business, solopreneur, sole trader, charity, or GDPR doesn't apply to me. No. It might not be in that extent, but if you've got your policies and all other things in place, so like as you do with your taxes and with your accounts and all of that, then this should be a piece of cake. I am not putting this in a milder term, but if you do it now, it will make your life a lot easier. Okay, what are the facts of GDPR? We saw the myths. So what are the facts? GDPR is ongoing and need controls and constant monitoring. You have to monitor the policies, privacy policies, or your website conditions or disclaimer, how you collect the data, where you store the data, when you change the cloud provider, how are you going to do? So it is ongoing monitoring of the controls. GDPR in many ways are beneficial for the organizations. We as small businesses, we keep saying that we will look after your data properly. We will be transparent. We want it to do business with you ethically. And it's all mumbo jumbo for a person if you can't prove it to them how it is going to be, because it's so intangible. You cannot feel it. You cannot feel that you're ethical. You cannot feel that you're authentic. So what this GDPR does is it gives them on paper what you will do to stay ethical, what you do to stay authentic. So I feel it is beneficial for organizations, and it proves them that they are transparent. And collect personal data must be processed ethically with the permission from the owner. So the owner of the data should know what you're doing with that data. So that's what it's about. And GDPR is for all of us. If you give data to someone else, You want that data to be processed and controlled ethically and with transparency, with diligence. That's what it's. GDPR is not just for organization, it's for general public as well. We need to know what our rights are, whether we can ask for the data, whether the data could be transferred from one business to one country to another country, or one business to another business. That's our prerogative, how we want to see our data. GDPR is not about avoiding data breaches or having, but GDPR is about it's about having a process and procedure and plan in place so that when data breach happens, you are dealing with it a lot more rationally. You don't make irrational decisions. We've heard CEOs come on TV and speak about, oh, we don't know what has happened, but this is what is. But when you have these processes, plans, and control, you can give and speak authoritatively that yes, we made a mistake, but this is, we are investigating on what has gone wrong or other things, with evidence, with facts, with process in place. It won't be just you saying. GDPR helps organizations handle the data more responsibly with care than they are doing now. Unfortunately, I've got to say this, many organizations, may not be you, many organizations, the large organizations, are not dealing our data responsibly. That is fact. But GDPR is going to put that right. And GDPR is about explicit permission, about data privacy, about individual rights, about transparency. And it applies to all of us, whether we buy, sell, or share our personal information. GDPR is about having an awareness on what data you hold, why you're holding that data, where you're storing that data, and how the data is processed. It's not, again, I've got this, it's not about breaches or rights, it's about responsibility. At least a couple of my clients have been telling me that, oh, we are going to anyway exit from European Union. We don't have to worry about that now. No. UK will still be adopting GDPR regardless of being in the EU or outside EU. If they are not adopting GDPR, they might bring something equally to replace the DPA, Data Protection Act, which we've got just now. So it is not, there is no escape. So 25% of company will be in trouble come 25th of May, will be in big, big trouble come 25th of May. And the second one is like last year, TalkTalk, major data breach was, they were fined 400, just mere 400k pounds. Under GDPR, they would have been paying 59 million pounds. Just imagine. Our tax money would be put for right reasons, hopefully. Remember, GDPR is not one of implementation. It is definitely not one of implementation. You need a constant monitoring of and continuous improvement of the policies and procedures and processes which you've got with regards to data privacy and data handling. And you need, if you're of a certain level, maybe the large companies and the medium companies, you do need a data protection officer or a team who is going to conduct privacy impact assessment on the data protection. So on the data, sorry. you need to have those offices in place. For small businesses, it is not needed, but there are numbers to it. Speak to the solicitors. Mind you, I'm talking about GDPR, and people say, oh, you're not a solicitor. Why are you talking about GDPR? I said, GDPR came about not because organizations were illegally using the data. GDPR came about because data breaches were happening out with the control of the organizations. They already had policies, they already had the Data Protection Act implemented in their organization, but data breaches were happening because the technology they were using to store the data, or the suppliers they were using to handle the data properly, were not aware of how the data has to be protected. GDPR is one of the way they are making sure the organizations have got a better technical control. My MBA project thesis was on IT governance. The reason I wanted to do IT governance was that IT has always been seen as one down from the business or board executives. No, not many executives were quite comfortable with technology, even in the technical arena, technical companies, but they were saying, oh, technology is just the enabling. Technology is the enabler. Just imagine if your server goes down and back office is not able to process any of the data, the businesses would just stop still. They'll lose lots of money. So technology should not be seen as an enabler. Technology should be seen as part and parcel of the business. So GDPR is going to put that right, I think, hopefully, fingers crossed. So we technologists will have job to carry on. So that's the point of the whole point, the background of why GDPR came about. So now let's talk about, it's almost 26 minutes in, let's talk about what are the steps you can take if GDPR is not being implemented or has not been seen as a priority within your organization or within your business. Step one, become aware. Be aware that data, GDPR is there. There are implications if you don't comply with GDPR. Not just you, all of you, like your business, your staff, they all have to know if the data has not been handled properly, we would have major implications in terms of fine and other things. So that is awareness. Once you know where you're going, the path will show in itself. So it's about becoming aware. This is the data. We need to handle that data properly. Remember, you're not the owner. You're just a processor. Know the data. This is about data mapping, okay? What data you have, where did you get that data from, why are you holding that data, and how are you going to store that data? If the data is redundant, how long are you going to hold it, as in like in data archive, and how securely are you going to destroy that data? That's what it's all about. This in small organizations, it's a lot easier. You've got small amount of data, you know there is a database of certain amount, go check, get one person or two person in it, and they will sort most of the things out. Not like Sports Direct. This is one of the incidents I really laugh out loud. I really don't have a clue how an organization can hold their staff data on an Excel sheet. That's not secure. Many people know government runs government in itself is an Excel factory. They produce Excel like it's going to go out of fashion. Excel is not the secure storage database. Get a database which is a secure database. Then communicate explicitly. Many lately managed marketing gurus, they come from all shapes and forms. I am one, so please don't get me wrong. Out of this enthusiasm of growing the business and helping the clients, we do sometimes do mistakes. Okay, so what happens is, like, we use certain language to get them to accept, yeah, there is a data protection, so we need to comply for this. Let's get a fancy language which people are not going to understand just by glancing at it. Let's get them opt in or opt out or whatever. So we do use the flowery language without knowing the implications of how we are communicating to our clients, to our suppliers, to our customers, to get their permission to explicitly use the data of their data, process their data. So it has to be simple and clean. Do you accept or not? If you've got more than one or two channels, you need to use, like, for email ones, and for you cannot have one statement saying that we would communicate with you either via email, telephone, or snail mail or whatever. So it has to be explicitly communicated to your customers. This is one of the policy which you need to adopt. If you don't have it, if you do all these 10 steps, you are almost there. All you need is certification saying that, okay, yeah, it's been done properly. It's nothing. It's about common sense, right? I'm really sorry to say this, but that's the truth. It's about common sense. How you're going to use the data, how you're going to communicate it to a client when they are giving the data. Just imagine you go and get asking your friend £100 or €100, right? You would communicate to that friend, say, you give me 100, you loan me or lend me €100 or £100. I will give you, I am going to use it. You may not say that in explicit term, but I want it for such and such. I don't have a bank account, or I didn't get my pay, or whatever. And then you use it, right? You do have the responsibility to give that loan back. It's the same as that. Data is the same. You're borrowing it from someone else, using it for your research purpose. So that's about communication. And the fourth step is about the individual rights. This is where you need to have a data mapping of knowing the data. What data you have, why are you using that, what data, how are you going to use that data, how you're saving that data, where have you got that data from? For example, you've got my data, all my data, from my national insurance number, my bank details from 10 years, and you're holding all the data, even though you're not using that data. I have got all the rights to ask you to give me that data and give me the justification why you're holding that data. Many small organizations may not do that, but that is the truth behind that. So everyone has got individual rights. Why? So if you've got a policy or a procedure, if someone asks you for the data, you've got to get back to them. I think is this time stipulation of 21 days or 28 days. You need to get back to them with the data they're asking. That is still, that's been there in DPA as well as a freedom request of freedom information request or something like that. So it has always been there, but GDPR is making it more explicit. And lawful justification, as I said to you in the last step, you have got a legal obligation to prove that you're holding the data, what you're holding, on a lawful basis. May it be sensitive or may it be personal data. So you need to have that lawful justification of why you've got so much. I registered for an event this morning. I was giving my phone number, my address. It's an event. It's an exhibition, for God's sake. My email address, even though it was on the Eventbrite, it didn't bring the address. When I said I said no, it asked me if I couldn't provide that. It was a mandatory field. So I was thinking, I picked up the phone and asked this event organizer, why are you asking me these data? Why have you made it mandatory for me to give you my home address, my telephone number? You don't need it. You're not sending me the ticket. You've already got the ticket. So why are it's a free ticket? It's not even that I paid, for example. Sometimes you think you pay it and the credit card declines. Yes, the business have got all ethical reasons for you, for calling you to find out why the credit card didn't go through. So you need to pay them. That is some kind of justification there. But here, this is number one, it's a free event. It's on the Eventbrite. It's an exhibition. You are collecting data for no reasons. That put me off as well. And this is about consent. I did speak about this before, but this is the most important part of getting the consent. Many credit card companies, many financial organizations, insurance companies, and all of them do put fear of life in you when they get the data and when they get the consent. GDPR is going to make it a lot more simpler. If there are terms and conditions, if there are only 4 or 5 pages, or at least 1 page, if we could get it, we can read that terms and conditions. If it's about 5, 6 pages, we don't know. We don't want to read. We implicitly give our consent. So get your terms and conditions, get your website, get all where you capture the data. Make it as simple as possible. Plain English. English is second language for me, so plain English would help a lot in my situation as well. So it will help many people if it's in plain English. So that's most important part of GDPR. And the second one is get the consent from the legal guardian. If you're an education organization or if you're charity dealing with younger generation, anyone under 16 or vulnerable group, get the consent from their legal guardian or someone who provide consent for them. So that way, that will help you to prove that you got the consent and where the source is from. Source is the important field that the database should have. Up until now, there's never been a situation where there is, even though the database, you can create it, but none of the businesses will provide. The reason I'm saying is I used to be a database administrator. If we are going to give any data for the audit, we will just give the data, the main run a report and we'll give it. We won't give when the data was added, when the data was updated, how many times the data was updated. We don't give all these things for the auditors. When I was auditing, I do ask for these data because that gives a lot more insight on how the data is being manipulated. Sometimes data do get manipulated at the back end. Don't ask me why, but that happens. In businesses, that do happen. People go and add things retrospectively, and they do a typo or something, show off 1 0, they put 2 zeros, or they take 1 0 off. So, something that's happened. These things do come out in IT audit information security. But this is more of getting the consent, getting the source right. Proactive about data breaches. As I said to you, Yahoo didn't provide the information about the data breach few months in. They've been struggling to fix this, and they've been doing everything what they can to fix whatever the data breach has happened. In, I think it was 2013 and 2014, they tried everything. They, since 2013 till 2016, they had about six data breaches. Some of them were not that significant, but few of them were significant, that they've been fined as well. But the data breach has never been reported. So this, under GDPR, you need to report the data breach as soon as possible. That is in few days, if not in few hours. You need to send it to the regulation saying the data breach has happened. Even if you feel the data breach has happened, you need to send the information across. So what is this? Is data privacy as platform. Why have we got this fancy name? Is fancy phrase is more to do with if you've got a stronger data privacy policy, you are almost a stronger company. Why do I say that? The reason is you are a processor or a controller of data. So that means people trust you. Your reputation is like, oh, this person or this company is going to deal with my data with utmost care, and I can trust this company. So when a client or when a customer or when trust a company, that is going to multiply. That's a multiplier effect you can have of this. So data privacy as a platform, be that as a basis, be that data privacy as a foundation for you to build, grow your business. This is not for all, but if you've got a person who can take up this role of being a data controller or data protection officer, do it. But it is important for some of the companies, the larger companies, that they do have a data protection officer or a data protection team under that officer. But for small businesses, for some of the charities, you don't need to appoint a data protection officer on own, but it is beneficial if you could assign someone, an individual or a team, to look into this data protection within the organization. If you can't train all of them to deal with it, you have to. By the way, I'm not saying you shouldn't be training. I'm saying you have to train all the members, but in case you've got other members of staff who've got big role and they're firefighting, they're not able to take on more tasks, get someone who has got lesser tasks, or appoint someone to look into it quite seriously. It's for your benefit. This is for the international data. When the data is being, if you're buying data from someone else, or if you're sending and sharing the data cross-platform, this is needed. everyone you send the data, you share the data, you transfer the data, should know about the GDPR if you are in the European Union countries. If you are outside, you need to know because you're dealing with the data from the European Union citizens. So GDPR does apply to them. Make sure that you give them the training, either online, like webinars or something like that, which can make your life a lot easier. And GDPR, this is the most important part, which every business owner who has got, may it be personal or a business solopreneur who has got a website. Website is the face of your business. This is the one way you can get in trouble. If your website is not clear, it doesn't comply to GDPR rules of data privacy, and you're getting data, or you're transferring data, or using the data, then you are in trouble, big trouble. Sorry to say this, but that's what is going to happen. You need to have a disclaimer policy, website disclaimer policy, or why you use certain things, when you say on your opinion and all of that, and terms and conditions, terms of service, if you do a service, terms of sale policy. It's not hard, by the way. I'm saying these things have to be there. Privacy policy, cookie policy. If you, as EU citizens, we do accept and have a cookie policy, so we need to comply to that one, and get an SSL certificate. It covers your website data. Actually, even if the server is well secure, it covers your domain. It covers your data, the small amount of data which you've got. I work for a educational non-profit educational I am associated with them. There was an incident. One of the club website has been hacked. That was at least 4 years, 5 years ago. Was hacked, and it had all adult content. I don't know how this has happened. I was not there. This is a hearsay. I don't know whether this has happened or not. But that was one of the members told me, "Oh, that's happened." That since then we are very cautious about putting things on the club website, which is quite astonishing because it's a non-profit organization, it's an educational organization. Why did this happen? So for hackers, I'm an ethical hacker. There's a story behind that. That's for another time. I'm an ethical hacker. We don't know why people hack. Most of the data breaches, which has been investigated, has been done by individuals or the younger, between 12 and 16. The proportion, almost 2/3 of people who attempted to hack the big organizations are not older or adults, or they are younger generations. So it is just a kick for us. And I know I'm saying, I shouldn't be saying this, but it's like, if I could enter a room without people noticing, I would be great. It uses up kind of power. That's why hackers hack the system, not because they've got vengeance on you, or they are enemies, or they want to get data. It's when we do penetration test or pen test, this is what we look for. We look for vulnerabilities on the website. We send the data. We send the data so fast that the data, if one block is out, and we can get it. That's why blockchain technology is so amazing for me. I'm studying it quite intensively. Is because as of now, they say, or I have not experienced yet, that blockchain is the most secure way of transferring the data or money, okay, or contracts. I couldn't break it as yet, but there might be situations, you never know. Maybe I'm getting older. No, I don't have the same point, but that's the truth. That's exactly what happens. So SSL certificate would save you a lot of it. It's good for your Google analytics as well. So that's, and have an explicit opt-in for. And you are the data controller or the processor. You're not the owner. That's exactly what I mean. Now it's question and answer time. Do we, as a customer, consumers, etc., have a right to be forgotten by the organization that we've done business in the past? I have those organizations delete or destroy any record of the consumer's past connections with any organization on request. As of now, the Data Protection Act, the question is crystal long. Do we as consumers, etc., have a right to be forgotten by the organizations that we have done business in the past, i.e. have those organizations delete or destroy any record of the consumer's past connections with any organizations on request? As of now, there is a data archive policy. You cannot hold data more than 5 years old unless it is needed for other purposes. Again, the organization have got to justify. There is no segmentation within the organization happens as of now. I don't think that a segmentation happens. Even newer CRM projects like Infusionsoft or MailChimp or anything else, it doesn't happen. So as a consumer, you have rights to ask them to delete the data if they hold. First, they cannot just delete the data. If you ask for the data and they have that data, then they have to give you what data they have. Once they've given you the data, and you can say, okay, delete the data. Or you can ask them to send it to someone else if that's needed. But I don't see a use case of that happening unless in national health services or some of the organizations where you may have sensitive data which you need to transfer it to other organizations. Generally, that doesn't happen. Is there any other questions? Karen and Crystal, I've promoted you for the panelists so you can speak if you want.
Sudha, thank you very much. That was a very informative presentation.
Thank you. Have you got any questions?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. Crystal, do you have any other question? Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did, Sudha. Thank you very much. I think it's just a very grey area for now with data protection, so there's a lot to learn and a lot more, I suppose, to be careful with how we process data in the future.
Yeah, it is more important, because the reason I say that is because we are not the data owners, and we need to use the data responsibly. We are in the mercy of our clients to provide the data for the data research and business intelligence purposes. So if we can't handle the data responsibly, then we shouldn't have the rights to ask for the data. That's my point. But hey, other businesses might not agree with that.
Actually, Sudha, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Websites, and on the website you have usually a contact page.
Mm-hmm.
Should you have, before somebody actually clicks to give you their details, should you have your like an policy in place so as they know what they're clicking for?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a general, I mean, can you download that? Is it a general policy so as you're covering everything, or is it just one that you?
No, actually, as I said, you've got to have 6 policies. Data privacy policy is the most important policy. And then terms and conditions. Let me just go back, and I do have, there's going to be another webinar on this one, especially,
yeah.
Especially about this is what I'm trying to do is more of getting the website to GDPR compliant. This is the loophole people can get in trouble, especially charities and small business owners, solopreneurs. They can get in trouble because this is exposed to general public. This is exposed to ICO, Information Commissioner Office. I don't know what they've got in Ireland, but it is exposed to the European Union Information Commission as well. So what happens is, if they think they don't see it, or if someone complains that they don't see the website disclaimer form or conditions policy or terms of service or terms of sale, if you're selling something, then it is hard for you to justify that you have a policy.
Okay. So maybe you have a policy on that page, and then it keeps
the link to the policy. The policy will be on a separate page, but it's just a link to the policy, which will make it a lot more easier. If you've got 7 policies, just create 7 different pages. Don't put all of them in one page. Again, I'll put people off reading your policy. Or so just make it easy for them, just so that they don't complain. And
is there, I mean, it should be like an opt-in where they have to click on a box to say they've read it, or is that just too cumbersome then?
No, you should have explicit opt-in forms. Yeah.
Okay. For the, as in for the policy.
Policy, no, you don't have to ask them whether they've read the policy or not. No, that's not needing, but you do get a checkbox which says, I've read the terms and conditions. Most of the time, I don't read the terms and conditions. I just think, I don't know about you. I know I am a weirder in a way, but I don't read terms and conditions too much for me to get just some information. So it is just you covering your backside.
Yes.
Pun intended. No pun intended. It's yes, if someone goes and complains that they don't have terms and conditions policy on certain website, they can come back and ask. Some people may think, okay, we may have to go and ask for terms and conditions. I'm not able to click through that. Some people may come and ask you, where are your terms and conditions? Some may complain, some just ignore. But you never know with what kind of person are looking at that web page.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sudha.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's enough for me to get my head around for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's thanks for joining, and I'll
thank you, Sudha.
Bye for now.
Thank you so much. See you now. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.